Hello, this is a quick start guide for DataRocket. On the screen at the moment we've got the standard AutoSketch commands, plus on the left there is the power tools on the far left, which are the standard drafting tools. This is required for other modules to run. Next to that is the DataRocket modules, which are the calculation and databasing side of things, and then we have the assistant, which is the drawing commands. There's already a blank page on the drawing setup, but before we need to go to the page we need to look at what database we're using. So quick options, and our database is draw. The database we need to use is roof, and you can see I had lots of databases there. On your system you probably have only got draw, but to create a new database you just type the name in. If you didn't have roof, again just type the name roof in and it will fire up the standard database. Now, as much as I said there is a standard database, you still need to put all the settings into it. It isn't ready to run because everybody has their own data and their own way of doing things. The folder written underneath is where the database is stored. So this is in the CAD directory and data. Unfortunately this one's set to the D drive, which is the way I have my computer set up, but on your systems this will default to the C drive. Save. That database is set up. The drawing is already available, a blank page. If I right mouse click I can go to drawing options, and at the moment this is standard in millimeters and the scale is 1:100. To start off we need to go to the contract info. That will put in the layers, and then we can save the file as a new name. As well as the layers being put in, it will put in database options. So at the moment the databasing is blank, and that will fill up with all the database fields. I think we'll do this first because then I'll let the drawing go horribly wrong, so you can see where mistakes can be made. Contract info. First thing, we set up the layers. The layers can have a prefix, so at the moment there's no prefix. It has the word none there, but if you put the number 1 there, or B for basement, or first for first floor, it would put all your layers in with the prefix added to the front. Run, and then we come to the contract info. We can put builder info and then client info, but I'm just going to go straight to job information. In the job info at the top it tells us we're in millimeters, so ceiling height 2400, roof pitch 30 degrees. I can just use the tab. Rafter centers 900, tab joist centers 600, data file roof, and there's a tick in the save here. This will reset the units to the requirements under roof, and this is a file called roof_set.txt. You can change it yourself, but this one will change everything to meters. So if I go finish, and now I go back to my drawing options into units, you can see everything's been changed to meters, square meters, etc., and that was done automatically. All the layers have been put in, so all our layers are in, and under database, and you don't need to go to database, but this is just to show you there's lots of fields have been put in. So if you start to do a drawing without using the contract info box, you'll find nothing will happen because you won't have any database fields. Going to the pen, I'm going to choose fascia to start with. It's already there, set. Go to my line multiple, S for snap off, just pick a point. I'm going O for ortho, and I'm just going to draw an outline, and this will be a house. Now just going to the framing commands. First of all, frame rectangle. So I'll pick a rectangle, and this is the rectangle here, the center one in this area. So endpoint, 2-point intersection, and 2-point intersection using the number 2. That's put in the roof. If there's an overlapping rectangle, I could use the rectangle again. In this case there's 2 hip ends on this. Right click, hip end, picking on the outside and then back in towards the other framing, and there's my framework. Control E to zoom into the extents for this drawing. Now, if I take the quantities off this, take off quantities, we're going to go to fascia. This has probably got a couple of settings in it already. So metal, length is in the code box. So code you can use for anything. Just because I've got material and code doesn't mean you can't put any other values in this. So material you can put supplier names if you like. But code I'm just going to use the word length. Cost center we don't use. That's for things like data build. User is the size, so just standard long line. Count is 1. Tag is all on 0 for the moment. Area to length is for walls with 90 mil. And then we've got auto run and global units. Global units is ticked, so everything is global. It's on a big list. So if I take this out, I will have an individual set of sizes. So you can see how this has gone to lots of sizes because it was on global. I'll just go run. Just go back there again now. And you can see now we've come down to short lists, which are only for this particular item. So with global undone, auto runs means we can do this automatically. And I'll just tick auto run and run. So the next time if I hit auto, it won't ask questions, it'll just do everything for me and put in all the generic values. I'm just going to exit out of this so you can see that nothing's happened. So question mark onto here, and there's no values have come in underneath. You can always see there's all the database values to come in on that. We'll close, and the reason for this is that we haven't set up fascia. So draw settings, and this is a one-off. Once you've set things up, you should be able to leave them. So fascia setup. We've already got the colors and things there. They were established in the default setup, but you can change these. We've got values. It adds 100 millimeters. It increments at 0.1. There's no tolerance and no area waste. Maximum length is 10 meters. We've got cover and shift, that's not needed. And here we have the auto, so it comes up on the auto list. Totals, so it comes in the totals list. We want length, we don't want it pitched, and we don't need area. So this is now set up, it's in meters. We'll change the default units to 0.1 and save. I'll also do the same for hips, so H, hip, setup. With the hip I've got a 0.2 waist, 0.3 increments, again autos, total length. You don't use auto and these values if you're doing things like beams because they're already calculated in some of the other items, but that's the 3 for there. Just go to 0.1, save. Hip, we've got ridge, R, just roll the wheel of the mouse for after ridge setup. I'll just tick all these. It's already got previous values in it. And valley. Now I did make a mistake on hip, and I'll pick that up on valley. With the calculations, auto totals length. With the valley we needed it to be pitched, but also it's pitched at the 45, so instead of being pitched like a rafter it's at a slightly lower angle, so I'll just click that again so it greys out. So that means it's a 45 degree pitch. That's 45 degrees looking from above. All the values, we'll just change this to 0.1, save. I'll just go back to hip, and these can be changed anytime. Pitch and grey again. Exit. Now if I go into the quantities, I could go list all, oops, within page, list all, auto, and this will go through the items that we've listed. So ceiling joist, that must have auto already set on it, we'll just skip that. Here we have the fascia again, run. So with the hip values, again material, pine. You can see global lists is blank on this one. Code, length, user, I'm not sure of hip size. Let's just go 200 times 38. Pitch is already there. Count, auto run, so it can run automatically next time. and run. So ridge, same thing. You can see that there's no values for a ridge yet. Okay, so once again with the ridge code is blank, so length. If we'd have had the tick in global units, this would have had all the new bits on it. One trick would be to use global units the first time you use it and then take it off later on, but for the sake of a bit of typing it's not worth it. So 225 times 25 for the ridge size, material pine again. Auto run valley. You can see the valley, it's missed off things like underpurlins and stuff because we haven't got to those yet, we haven't set them up. So valleys, standard pine code. And I use the word length because some items might have area and perimeter, so in that case we'd have gone length, comma, area, and with putting a comma in the code area, you can get two values for the one item. User 175 times 25 just to show it something different. Auto run, and we're done. If I go shift question mark again, we can see if we look on some of these items, this time we have got values down here. Inquire again, and the same with the line properties. I need to save this drawing, so save to give it a name. So I'm just going to put this in my drawings directory. Under sample AVI, save, and we've now got a name for the drawing. If I go into the export file now, we'll come up with a new export page. If you've used this before, it'll already have values in. If you haven't, you just have to put the items. At the moment it's going to look for all names, so the right hand side is what it's looking for. On the left I want the code, the name, the material, the length, skip if 0. If we have to do area, we'd come back and do that a second time. Count. We need user is the user file, so if you have user without a value in here, you've got to add a value in. So tick user and put user there. Cost center, I don't need the cost center. And here's the file name, which has just followed my drawing file. Create file, and if I view this, you can see I've got a file with a list of all the items on it. I'll just drop out of there for the moment, exit. Now this is the point where you'd go back and change a few things using manual override. So if I went manual override, picked on a ridge, changed the color to blue, I went next, I could pick another ridge, but I'll just right mouse click, and we might have changed this to material, might now be an LVL, and it could be a 250 times 75, oops, 756, and then run, and it just changed the size for that item. Now, if you did do this, you would then have to go back to the Rocket create file, this time overwrite. It would start the file again, and we're back in business with a change to that. Really, you'd have used manual override before you went down to what is here. I'll just put some text on these. So text, I'll just go on center, select all within page, run, and I'll pick on the ridge. So it's put ridge 2.1, the likes. This word ridge has come from the setup, so I'll just exit out of here again, cancel, and if we go into the ridge setup, you can see we've got the word ridge there. We could leave that blank and it would take that out of the equation. Back to the text, we'll go off the end by 2 millimeters. I'll just change that to 5, and aspect, really we can have a smaller aspect of 0.5. Select all, within page, run, that's better. Let's put all the values off the hips, and if I did the valleys, is put all the values off the end as well. So that's the drawing part done. I've just saved that. If I go to my Excel now, this is just going to come up with an error message. This is the Excel I use all the time. And open CSV file, which this file is. It's a comma separated value file. And we have problems. Okay, back again. Now solve that problem. Open CSV file, which is a comma separated values file. Go back to my drawing directory, and as much as there's lots of files here we have sample AVI CSV, open, and here's the list come up. We don't leave it like this. There's a create summary button, create summary, and there's our summary. So we've got the fascia, all the links for the fascia with the total, the ridge 225 by 25 pine, the ridge 250 by 75 LVL on a different line, and then we've got the valleys and the hips. So that's it in a nutshell. From this Excel spreadsheet, you can then save this as an XLS file, which is your normal Excel files, and if I go save as, just change this down the bottom to XLS, save, and that's saved now as a sample AVI.xls, and we go from there. The other AVI files in this training part will look more specifically at each individual item.